So in this video, I just wanted to give the realistic sad truths. And in a lot of videos, I talk about how I'm trying to get better. I'm going to doctors. I'm doing jobs, and I am doing all those things, and they could help. These are things that could, in the future, help, or they could have already helped. But realistically, that's not most likely going to happen. The reason for it is that doctors do not wish to do their job. Instead, they're just taking it as something else. Like for instance, for the last 4 days, I peed black pee with a green tint. For the first 2 days, I took samples and I went in the hospital. In the hospital, it was dark brown with a green tint and lightened up a little bit. It went back to a grayish with a green tint, but right now it's like a yellowish with just dark yellow. So right now it's pretty normal actually. Just today it went pretty normal, but yesterday it was dark brown, and then when I was at the hospital it was dark brown with a green. And then for 2 days prior it was dark black with a green tint, and in between the brown and now there was one that was like a greenish tint to the brown. So with all that going on, you would think that the doctors would be answering the phone line or something, right? No, it's pathetic, their behaviors that I see when I call. Not only that, I had to pay phone tag for about 24 hours just to leave a voicemail. It's getting pretty ridiculous. And not only that, they're having me play like telephone tag or play the game telephone with them, where I leave a message with a live person, then that person transfers me over or leaves a message with another person, and then that person takes that voicemail and repeats it verbally over another time to the doctor's voicemail, and then the doctor gets it. And each single time, my message has been shortened to be simplified. So, what happens at the end? The doctor ends up not thinking it's not serious or not getting all the information, and it makes no sense to him. Then he comes back going, this sounds like crazy talk. Why? What was the message you got? And that was the problem. That's always the problem, is that nobody is communicating in life. I see it all the time. Police officers not communicating with their criminals. The criminals not communicating with the police officers. The judges not communicating with the lawyers. The lawyers not communicating with the judges. The Republicans not communicating with the Democrats. The Democrats not communicating with the Republicans. Doctors not communicating with the insurance companies. The insurance companies not communicating with the doctors. The patients are communicating with the doctor, but the doctor isn't listening. Or the doctor isn't communicating with the patient, but the patient is trying to communicate with the doctor, yet none of that's going through. And that's the big problem in life, is nobody is listening and nobody is communicating. Like, I have communicated what is wrong with me and what's been going on with me for the last 25 years multiple times. Yet I still don't see much on paperwork to do with that. I don't see doctors really trying to do very much to get this down on paper. And a lot of that has to do with, this is not an easy fix where you just prescribe pills and send them on their way. Most doctors I've seen, that's their go-to. Here's a prescription for some Oxycontin, have a great day. Here's some prescription for Seroquel for sleep, have a nice day. Here's some prescription for Seroquel, Trazodone, and Thorazine, have a nice day. Here's a prescription for penicillin, have a nice day. Here's a prescription for some opiates, have a nice day. Here's a prescription for some more opiates, have a nice day. Here's a prescription for gabapentin, have a nice day. And this is the funny part too. When you don't want gabapentin or when you don't want anything like that, they'll prescribe it, no problem. I've been prescribed gabapentin 3 times when I did not want it or even know about it. But about 4 years ago, or I should say, no, 2 years ago, I asked the doctor if that should be something that we should look into bringing back. I told him I was prescribed it in Lowell, Massachusetts 10 years ago. We never had any problems. But then I moved up here, and I just stopped my prescription. I never asked to have it given back to me. So I asked him if this is, it did help the shakes a little bit, but it's a controlled substance, so I'm a little worried about that. But it does help. Is there any way we could use that or add something else? And of course, he just gives an instant no, which is fine with me. I mean, it's not that great. I mean, Triliptal actually works a lot better, but that is a medication that I can be prescribed as a PRN to help when the shakes are really, really, really bad, or when the shocks or the seizure-like feeling is going through my nervous system like I'm getting electrocuted. When that happens, a small dose of about 100 to 300 milligrams of gabapentin usually helps quite a bit. But that's not what he wants to do. No. That's because I'm asking for it. If a patient asks for a medication like me, he's usually denied. And that's because of my addiction history. But if I don't ask for it, they like to push a lot of these things onto me. Like, they will give me, like, I had a doctor, I did not ask for any opiates. I told her I did not want any opiates. She was a pain specialist, and this was for the seizures in the back, the electrical discharges in my back that was causing muscle spasms all over, causing me from the age of 7 on to fall on the ground while watching fireworks, and causing me to fall in public, and causing my arms not to move properly or my limbs not to move properly. I described that feeling in my back. Told her it wasn't quite a pain, but it was a discomfort. It felt more like a lightning or a shock in my back. I told her I didn't want any pills for this. I just wanted to see what I could do. She said, pray it away. I said, I've been praying for about 10 years now, and I'm going to continue praying. But seeing as we've already done the praying, and I already have given my soul to God, what else can we do on top of that? Like, is there any doctors I can go see? Is there any tests I can run? She said physical therapy, and that was very helpful. I do physical therapy now every morning, and it is very helpful. And the other thing was a bunch of opiates. And not only that, she prescribed me opiates while I was on naloxone and buprenorphine. And I looked straight at this doctor, an Indian doctor named Dr. Brown, and I said, for one, I don't want any medication. But, and for two, I don't think we can mix this. I gave you my med list, and I don't think these two meds can be mixed together. At this point, she told me, just try them for a little bit, and if you have any problems, come back and see me. I said, I don't know if that's a good idea. Mixing tramadol with Suboxone and naloxone, or I should say buprenorphine and naloxone, that doesn't sound like it's safe. She goes, I think you're fine. She goes, just try it and come back if you have any problems. I go, okay. So she sends electronic prescription over to my pharmacy, what was the Asian pharmacy on Westford Street. They were very good to me, actually. They were small mom and pop, took my insurance, great people. I always knew I could trust my meds from them. Anyway, so I go down to them, and I call Ma over, and I say, hey, I got a couple questions today. She goes, yeah, Zach, what's going on? I said, I just came from the doctor's again. She goes, yeah? I go, I'm not sure if I should be taking these both at the same time. My doctor said to try it, and I guess I should listen to her, but I don't think she's right, so I just wanted to ask you if that's safe. So then the pharmacist goes, I'll check. So she goes in the back room, talks to the head pharmacist, her husband. She comes out, calls the doctor, and yes, I was right the whole time. You cannot mix tramadol with Suboxone. And no matter how many times I brought that up to my doctor in office, it was the pharmacist who caught it. It was me and the pharmacist who eventually said, no, we're not filling this. And then I called the doctor's office and said, what are you doing? I could have got hurt here mixing those two meds. And so this is the type of stuff you have to go through. And this is the problem. If doctors are treating their patients like that, if doctors are making little mistakes or causing more harm, or they're too afraid to do the stuff that needs to be done, then you're never going to get better. And that's where I am at now. They have no problem sending me to a psychiatrist or loading me up with pills. Those two options will always be available to me. I'll always be able to treat my neurological disorder with therapy. I'll always be able to treat my GI bleeding or my GI swelling or my seizures with therapy. And I'll always be able to get loaded up with pills as long as they're not controlled substances. But what I really need is diagnoses, a doctor, and a doctor who actually is concerned with helping me with my health, not with all this bull crap. Not with trying to pump me full of pills, not with trying to do a psych or whatever. The other problem too is we haven't cleared up any of my fraudulent or really interfering paperwork from before I was 18. There's a lot of medical files that totally get these doctors off the track that they need to be on. And part of that is if you give two sentences and you change one letter, they can have a totally different meaning. And my mother used to do this so often that everything got twisted. Now, I'll give an example. If I put the words, I got home, and then I typed in the words, I got a home, do they mean the same thing? I got home, I got a home. I got home, I got a home. Now, all you did was one letter. You put an A in there, that's all. So if you were having a conversation with somebody, or if you're leaving a message with somebody, if you're writing somebody a letter, and you drop that A, it changes the whole meaning of the conversation. Instead of you saying, I got home just fine, now you're just saying that you now own a home. So maybe nobody lets you stay at their house. You never know. It changes the meaning of the conversation. And that's why it's so important for communication to be clear and understood. And if you does seem like you're not understanding each other, or whatever you're doing isn't working, it's time to ask questions and figure out where the miscommunication happened. And doctors aren't doing that. They're just moving, plowing right through everything. Something doesn't work, just hit that floor pedal and go right through it. Oh, the patient says that he has past medical records that might cause some problems or cause him to get hurt in the future. Let's just plow through that part. So yeah, this is very common in society today. I've been trying to go really quick with this video. I only have 2 more minutes. It's a little difficult to do these. My SIM cards actually don't work properly. But I wanted people to think about this, because it could be you next. It could be your child. It could be your grandson that goes to the doctors and goes through loop-de-loops, wastes all his money, and then has to fill out at the age of 31 how he wants to get buried and what's going on. So yeah, you'll hear me talking about all these hopes and all these doctors and all this stuff I'm doing. But the truth is, if the doctors aren't going to do their jobs properly, if the state does not want to take this seriously, if the federal government doesn't care about what happened with the money that was paid out, or taxes or anything, if they're like me, actually paying them taxes. If I got healthier, if we fix this, I could work full time for the rest of my life and pay taxes. But nobody cares about any of that. They don't. Because when this happened, I was a child, and the person who did it killed themselves with alcohol and pills. And on top of all this, when she did kill herself with alcohol and pills, my father hid it. He forced me to be home. He basically locked me in the house so I couldn't get closure, and so none of the truth could get out to the doctors. I might have been able to save her life, but Dad prevented me. My father prevented me from giving the information I knew was true to anybody. On top of that, when she did pass away, my father did everything in his power to cover everything that happened. He screamed at me that I wasn't allowed to talk bad about somebody who literally tortured me for 15 years. So it didn't give me much opportunity. On top of that, he got married shortly after that and made his own new problems with the family. So the whole family is now having problems with his new wife, and none of them are worried about what happened between me and my mother. So yeah, none of this is probably ever going to get fixed. I'm just going to end up either really dying slowly and having to commit suicide so I don't have to suffer, or I'm just going to die one day out of nowhere while working really hard. And while this is going on, there are people who could have done things, but choose not to. I mean, all you have to do is listen to the patient. I have plenty of information. I have plenty to work with. There is no reason why we can't work on this. And there are laws, regulations. I mean, people aren't allowed to poison other people. People aren't allowed to torture other people. And I was a ward of the state as well, meaning this wasn't like I was born into this. Somebody made this decision for me. The state of Massachusetts made this decision for me. My worker, who was supposed to be checking up, decided not to listen. And on top of all that, the doctors were notified when I was young of these things happening. It wasn't like I kept silent. No, these things were brought up over and over. The reason why nothing was done and why I have to die at the age of maybe 40 or something like that, or it could be younger. I could die tomorrow. There's no way to tell. I've already died once. I'm 31. According to the Lowell emergency room, they found me dead, frozen to death. I had a close call where I had my hair ran over after a seizure. So I've already had enough where I'm lucky to be alive as it is. So, why was nothing done about this? Well, for one, also, my father and mother moved me around every year or two. As soon as the doctor established care, I was moved again. No, I was moved from Mass to Texas to New Mexico, back to Maine to Mass, to Maine to Mass, then to a little bit of like traveling on vacations. Just everywhere. There was no chance. Plus, I'm going from program to program, from home to home. I never get a chance to establish any trust with anybody. The only person I ever trusted was my father, and I still trust him today. I just don't trust him to pay attention, that's all. I don't trust him to believe me, and I don't trust him to pay attention. But, yeah, probably nothing will get done about this, but you're going to continue hearing about my plans and what I'm going to do about it. Hopefully someday somebody will do something that they're supposed to be, like a doctor doctoring, or an insurance agent insurancing, or maybe a lawyer lawyering, or maybe a quartering. That's not even a word. I'm just making up words at this point. Okay, I guess that's the end of this video.